To sabotage my wedding to Tang Yan, his childhood sweetheart staged to fall into the water. Little did she know, her life jacket wasn't fastened properly, turning her fake accident into a genuine cry for help. Tang Yan pleaded with me, his voice full of desperation. "Yushi and I grew up together. I can't just stand by and watch her drown. Xiaonan, I know you can swim, please, save her, we'll be forever in your debt." Under the moral coercion of the crowd, I jumped into the sea to save someone. But rescuing someone is completely different from swimming. Sun Yushi, in her panic, grabbed onto me and dragged me down desperately, nearly drowning me by pushing me under the water. After being rescued, I developed a severe lung infection from nearly drowning and was confined to my bed. Using my poor health and need for rest as a pretext, Tang Yan took all the shares of my company. After he took control of the company, he asked me for a divorce, and in the blink of an eye, he was off living happily ever after with Sun Yushi. I was so furious, it felt like I was coughing up blood and dying. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Sun Yushi flailing in the seawater, while Tang Yan was already gripping the railing, ready to jump. I quietly took 2 steps back. He'll have to save his childhood sweetheart himself this time. Someone's in the water. Help, help, brother Yen, save me, glug, glug. The chaos around me, the frantic footsteps, the cries for help. The general uproar snapped me back to reality. In a daze, I looked down and saw, to my astonishment, that I was wearing a white wedding gown. I knew this dress all too well. I had it custom-made abroad specifically for my wedding to Tang Yan. I had actually been reborn on the very day of my wedding to Tang Yan. I jerked my head up, staring at the painfully familiar scene before me. Sun Yushi was thrashing desperately in the seawater. The life jacket she had been wearing was now floating just out of her reach, and with each frantic movement she made, it drifted further and further away. Tang Yan, upon hearing Sun Yushi's cry for help, immediately abandoned me, his bride, and rushed onto the cruise ship's deck. He climbed onto the railing, ready to jump. I had rushed out right behind Tang Yan. Seeing this, I immediately reached out to stop him. I knew Tang Yan not only couldn't swim, but was actually somewhat afraid of water. He nearly drowned in a river as a child, and it was Sun Yushi who called for help and saved him. That's why he holds a special place in his heart for her. Yet, Tang Yan still chose to have the wedding on a cruise ship. I only found out later that the cruise ship wedding was Sun Yushi's idea. The accidental fall into the water was also part of Sun Yushi's plan all along. Tang Yan's mother disapproved of Sun Yushi and was adamantly against their relationship. Tang Yan tried starving himself and even attempted suicide, but in the end, he couldn't defy his mother and was forced to go on a blind date with me. He claims to love me, but in his heart, his true love has always been Sun Yushi. Sun Yushi wasn't willing to give up on Tang Yan either. She went to great lengths to sabotage our wedding, even putting herself in danger. She wanted to prove her place in Tang Yan's heart, to make me back down and be the one to end things. What a touching, star-crossed pair they were. I would have wished them well, if they hadn't made me the fool caught in the middle. But later, Tang Yan set his sights on the company I owned. Seeing that I was frail and ill, he changed his approach. Sun Yushi choked on another mouthful of seawater. The harder she struggled, the more the saltwater flooded her nose and throat. It never crossed her mind that her life jacket wasn't properly fastened. I sneered, looking down, and took a few more steps back. In this lifetime, not only will I not jump in to save anyone, I'll make sure they reap what they've sown. Tang Yan had already climbed over the railing. Just as he was about to jump, he suddenly stopped. He stared at the churning sea, and a cold sweat instantly beaded on his temples, streaming down his cheeks. He began to gasp for air, leaning his body more heavily against the railing before turning his head in a daze. When Tang Yan realized I was standing right behind him, his eyes lit up. Xiaonan, pull me up first." I saw his whole body trembling, so he was still scared after all. I thought true love could conquer all the hardships in the world. "Xiaonan, I remember you can swim, please." Before Tang Yan could start his emotional blackmail, I cut him off loudly. "Tang Yan, I know you two grew up together, childhood sweethearts, and I know you couldn't bear to watch her drown, but I'm the one who's supposed to marry you. You can't even swim, yet you jump in for her. Tang Yan, have you thought about how I feel? How could you do this to me?" I was bordering on hysterical, my furious shouts drowning out anything Tang Yan tried to say. Just as I paused, breathless from shouting, Sun Yushi's mother came limping up to us. She was the Tang family's nanny, a widow who lost her husband early in life and walked with a limp. She had been scraping by at the Tang residence all these years, bringing her daughter, Sun Yushi. along with her. She had always hoped her daughter would marry Tang Yen. Whenever I visited the Tang family, she never missed a chance to play her tricks and make things difficult for me. At this moment, Mrs. Sun had no time for her usual veiled barbs. She turned to Tang Yen and pleaded desperately, "Xiao Yen, I'm begging you, she's my only daughter. Please, for the sake of her saving your life when you were children, won't you pull her out?" The guests crowded around, all clamoring for Tang Yen to jump in and save the person, just like they had urged me in my past life. Upon hearing that the drowning person had once saved Tang Yen, they took the moral high ground, making callous remarks from the sidelines. I too feigned a look of frantic anxiety, appearing utterly at a loss. Tang Yen looked at Sun Yushi in the sea. Only the top half of her head was still above the water. I noticed that someone had already called for the crew, who were preparing to go into the water to rescue her. This wouldn't do. I sighed and turned to address the guests. "Stop pressuring Tang Yen. He's not a coward. Even though the person who fell in is the one who once saved his life, he can't be expected to throw his own life away for a past debt of gratitude." I watched as Sun Yushi's mother was being provoked further. "Auntie, don't make things difficult for Tang Yen. He is, after all, a young master from a wealthy family." In his eyes, "Your only precious daughter is just the child of a maid." A flash of fury and humiliation passed through Mrs. Sun's eyes before her legs gave way and she knelt before Tang Yen. Tang Yen was completely overwhelmed, just as Sun Yushi's strength gave out and she began to sink beneath the surface. Tang Yen gritted his teeth, turned, and started to clamber back over the railing. That's right, he was climbing back. He simply didn't have the courage to jump in and save her. Trembling, he clutched the railing to pull himself up, his lips quivering as he muttered, "It's not that I don't want to save them, I just can't swim. If I jump in, I'll drown." So, because he wouldn't save anyone himself, he had to force someone else to do it. He cares about Sun Yushi's life, he cares about his own life, but mine, he couldn't care less. Right now, I have only one thought. He has to go down there. He has to answer for what he did to my past self. I shouted, "Tang Yen, get back up here. You're afraid of the water, but I'm not. I'll go down and save her myself." But instead of tearing off the hem of my wedding dress like I did in my past life, I snatched the crown from my head and, using the dress as cover, charged straight at Tang Yen. The crown's sharpest point drove deep into the fleshy part of his hand between his thumb and forefinger. A sudden, sharp pain made him recoil, his already loose grip gave way, and he toppled backward into the sea, but my wedding dress got caught on the railing, preventing me from climbing over. "Tang Yen, don't go down there." I desperately reached out, but couldn't grasp anything. Tang Yen kicked his legs in panic mid-air, then landed with uncanny precision right on Sun Yushi's head. A massive wave erupted on the sea's surface, and the corners of my mouth shot up fiercely like that swell, only to be quickly reined in. By now, the ship's lifeguards had already lowered a rescue boat into the water. Under the watchful, hopeful eyes of myself and the crowd, they swiftly retrieved both individuals who had fallen overboard. Although the cruise ship was equipped with an infirmary, the doctor had taken the day off on the very day we set sail. This was the reason I didn't receive timely treatment in my past life. They're just cursed with the worst luck in the world. I knelt in a wretched heap beside Tang Yen, sobbing my heart out until my voice was raw. "I knew you had feelings for her, but we were about to get married. How could you just throw me away for her sake? Tang Yen, if you didn't want to be with me, you could have just told me. I wouldn't have stood in your way. Why did you two have to choose our wedding day to die together?" The guests who had been urging Tang Yen to save the person earlier now fell into a hushed silence. They all pricked up their ears, hanging on every juicy detail of the gossip. Even the lifeguard performing CPR on Tang Yen paused his compressions for a full 2 seconds. After some basic first aid, both were out of immediate life-threatening danger, though they remained unconscious. Sun Yushi was in better shape than Tang Yen. Before orchestrating her fall into the water, she had specifically practiced how to breathe underwater. Tang Yen had it rough. He was the one who truly had an accidental fall into the water. Tang Yen was already terrified of water. The moment he plunged into the sea, his mouth was still agape when he lost consciousness. As seawater flooded his mouth and nose, he was jolted awake by the choking, only to be choked unconscious again. The water the lifeguard pumped out of him was enough for a full bath. Watching him vomit up bloody water, I dabbed my nose with my wedding veil, quite satisfied with the groom, Tang Yen. In this state, the wedding was naturally put on hold. The cruise ship was now in international waters, leaving no option but to wait for a helicopter rescue. At that moment, I was genuinely praying for Tang Yen. If he died just like that, it would have been far too easy on him. The suffering from illness and the humiliation of betrayal I endured in my past life, he must taste every bit of it in this one. In my wedding dress, with my hair disheveled, I knelt outside the infirmary for 2 hours. Everyone was moved by the depth of my devotion. Finally, a helicopter arrived and airlifted them both to the hospital. That same afternoon, I rushed to the emergency room with my bridesmaids in tow. Sun Yushi was out of critical condition but still unconscious. It seemed Tang Yen had really done a number on her. In her past life, at this very moment, she had already thrown herself into Tang Yan's arms, weeping softly. "It's all my fault, I was upset about your wedding. So I went to the deck to get some air." Tang Yen held her tightly, comforting her in a gentle voice. Zhou Xiaonan insisted on jumping. She was showing off, and no one else is to blame. This time around, I'm the one standing outside, while Tang Yen is still fighting for his life in the emergency room. As soon as Tang Yan's mother saw me, she rushed forward and tried to slap me. "If it weren't for you putting ideas in my son's head, why would he ever want to have his wedding on a cruise ship? He's been terrified of water since he was a child. This is all your fault. My son would never have ended up like this if not for you." How ridiculous. It was clearly her own son's idea, but the moment something goes wrong, she has to pin the blame on someone else. "Mrs. Tang's hand was raised high, but before it could reach me, it was intercepted by the 4 bridesmaids. I hired those girls to be the bridesmaids. I didn't dare ask my real best friends to do it. To avoid Tang Yan's groomsmen from harassing them, that's when the 4 girls actually came in handy. They all started pointing out how Tang Yan abandoned his own wedding to jump into the sea and save someone. Don't even try to call him a hero. I heard the woman in the water is the groom's childhood sweetheart. Just look at the way they're staring at each other. It's positively indecent. You could practically see the sparks flying. Instead of blaming your own son for ditching his own wedding and jumping into the sea, you're pointing fingers at the innocent bride. Sounds like a guilty conscience to me. I have the ship's security footage right here. Don't even think about framing an innocent person. Well, of course there were people recording the wedding, but they were all behind me. Their footage shows Tang Yen sprinting across the deck, vaulting over the railing, and making as if to jump. Then they just pointed the camera at Sun Yushi struggling in the water. They completely missed my little maneuver. After watching the footage, Tang Yan's parents turned deathly pale, clenching her teeth. Tang's mother refused to give up. She stiffened her neck, pointed at the recording, and confronted me. "You were right behind Xiao Yan. Why didn't you stop him? You could have reached out and grabbed him." I covered my face, putting on a sorrowful and haggard look, as if my heart was utterly broken. Sobbing without uttering a word, 2 young women comforted me from either side, while the other 2 stepped forward and started berating Auntie Tang. Like mother, like son, the son gets entangled with other women, and the mother just passes the buck. Look at the sheer determination on your son's face. Who would dare to stop him? And if someone did, wouldn't you just turn around and blame them for pushing your son into the water? Exactly. Are you seriously blaming our bride for your son's change of heart? What's next? Are you going to say it's her fault for not being able to keep him interested? That little tramp who pushed your son into the water is lying right next door. Why don't you go slap her instead? Mrs. Tang was far too overconfident, insisting on taking on all 4 of them by herself. She nearly fainted from sheer rage. In the end, a nurse came out and strictly forbade anyone from making a racket in the hospital. I stole a glance at Aunt Tang clutching her chest, feeling a secret thrill. That old hag was her son's accomplice. In my past life, under the guise of visiting the sick, she would often come just to humiliate me. By then, I was already bedridden, barely able to get up. Hands on her hips, she stood at my bedside, cursing me as a barren hen, saying I was dying of illness and still dragging her son down with me. In the end, she even took out a photo of Tang Yen and Sun Yushi together just to provoke me. She laughed brazenly. "Look how perfect Yushi and our little Yen are together. They haven't been dating long, and Yushi is already pregnant. What a blessed girl." She conveniently forgot that she was the one who vehemently opposed Tang Yen and Sun Yushi being together in the first place. She looked down on Sun Yushi because her mother was a housekeeper, believing that made Sun Yushi inferior as well, and now, at the very moment she despised Sun Yushi the most, her only son had nearly lost his life for her. I didn't stay at the hospital for long before being whisked away by 4 young women to change my clothes. After witnessing the capabilities of these 4 women, I arranged a hotel for them and planned to extend their contract for another 3 months, that very night. I opened a short video platform, edited the wedding footage, and posted it online. The clip of me kneeling outside the medical room was particularly well shot. Everyone who saw it said I looked utterly heartbroken. I even bought myself a spot on the trending list, then turned off my phone and had a wonderful night's sleep. I didn't wake up until noon the next day. I put on some makeup to look pale and fragile, grabbed the chicken soup delivered by a courier, and headed back to the hospital with 4 young women in tow. I arrived at just the right time. Tang Yan had woken up only half an hour earlier. As for Sun Yushi, I heard she had already regained consciousness late last night. I knocked on the door of Tang Yan's hospital room and, without waiting for a response, led the group of young women bustling inside. Inside the VIP ward, Tang Yan was alone. Tang Yan lay in bed, his eyes half open, staring fixedly at the ceiling. He wore an oxygen mask, his bare chest covered with ECG monitoring electrodes, a blood pressure cuff on his left arm, and 4 line in the back of his right hand, and compression sleeves on both legs to prevent blood clots. Most notably, he was also hooked up to a urine bag. The sorrow I had been stealing myself for nearly dissolved the moment I saw the bubbles rising in that urine bag. I quickly lowered my head, covered my face, and my shoulders began to tremble. I had to cover my face. I couldn't let Tang Yan see my joy just yet. The young women quickly gathered around to console and comfort me, completely ignoring Tang Yan lying there. Tang Yan heard the commotion and, with great effort, turned his head. The moment he saw me, his eyes were filled with rage. He tore the oxygen mask from his face, struggling to sit up in his agitation, but he was too weak. The slightest movement sent him into a fit of coughing, violent enough to turn his face a deep crimson. After gasping for breath for what felt like an age, he finally managed to rasp out a question, his voice hoarse. "Zhou Xiaonan, why didn't you stop me this time? You should have stopped me. You should have been the one to jump into the sea. You stabbed my hand on purpose. You meant for me to fall into the water." Tang Yan's eyes were bloodshot as he shakily raised his injured left hand. His words sent a jolt through me. Could it be that Tang Yan had also been reborn? I bit down hard on the tip of my tongue. The sharp pain came, and when I looked up again, my face was already streaked with tears. "Tang Yan, what are you even saying? If you hadn't jumped in first, I would have already gone into the water to save them, and I didn't injure your hand either. Think about it again. Didn't you hurt it by bumping into the railing? Can't remember. You were probably in the water too long. Maybe it's a side effect." Tang Yan stared into my eyes as if trying to see right through me. He asked, word by word, "Zhou Zinan, you're not stopping me. Is it because you've been reborn too? Do you hate me for abandoning you in our past life? Is that why you want me dead in this one?" The 4 young women stood to the side, exchanging bewildered glances. They all thought Tang Yan must have lost his mind after nearly drowning. Only I understood what he was really talking about. I met his gaze, my eyes clear and bright. Without a trace of guilt, I want him dead, and I want it with a clear conscience. What is there to feel guilty about? With the unwavering conviction of someone taking a solemn oath, I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Tang Yan began coughing again, shaking his head as if possessed. "Wait, that's not right. You were supposed to jump in to save Yushi, then contract a lung disease, and I'd take care of you. You'd be so moved that you'd hand over your entire company to me. Then, when you were on death's door, I'd dump you, marry Yushi, and start a family." Yes, that's exactly what he did in my past life. Everyone praised him for standing by me and told me to be grateful, never realizing his true goal was the company my parents left me. I loved him, I trusted him, and in the end, I lost everything, my love, my fortune, and even my own life. As for Tang Yan, he had it all, fame, fortune, and the woman he loved, a picture of perfect happiness. Why him? Why does he get everything? Tang Yan didn't see the sheer, twisted hatred on my face. He just rested his hand on his head, muttering to himself, "Why would I jump in to save someone? Would I end up like Zhou Xiaonan in her past life, sick and wishing for death? No, I can't. I won't let that happen. If Zhou Xiaonan is fine, how am I supposed to take over her company? How can I spend her money and live happily ever after with Yushi? I regret it. Why didn't I get reborn sooner? I should have just pushed Zhou Xiaonan into the water from the start." The hatred nearly pierced my heart. My fists clenched tightly. Just as I was about to lose control, the door to the hospital room swung open. Sun Yushi entered the hospital room in a wheelchair, my gaze fixed on her face. A deep gash ran down the left side of her face, from eyelid to the corner of her mouth, in that instant. I thought of the crown that had stabbed Tang Yen. He fell into the water still clutching that crown, which then landed right on Sun Yushi's head and even managed to cut her face, a 50,000 yuan crown, worth every penny. Noticing my gaze, Sun Yushi's face contorted with rage, as if she were about to lunge at me and strangle me the very next second. Unfortunately, she didn't have the strength to even lift herself up. All she could do was wheel her chair over, throw herself onto Tang Yen, and burst into tears. "Wha, Brother Yen, are you okay? You scared Cece to death. I thought I'd never see you again." The frail Tang Yen couldn't withstand Sun Yushi's forceful tackle. He doubled over like a dying fish, broke into a fit of coughing, and bubbles began to rise in his urine bag once more. Seeing those bubbles, my anger suddenly vanished, as if a knot of tension in my chest had instantly dissolved. After all, in this lifetime I'm not the one living a fate worse than death. The furious young women were about to step forward and teach that scumbag and his floozy a lesson, but I stopped them. "Don't worry, their comeuppance is still to come." Sun Yushi clung to Tang Yan's arm, still trying to make her presence felt. "Brother Yen, you're so good to me. If you hadn't jumped in without a second thought, I might have drowned." She turned her head to look at me again, a clear challenge in her eyes. "Sister Zhou, you won't blame me for ruining the wedding you planned so carefully, will you? It's all because of the deep bond Yen and I have shared for so many years." I smiled and pointed at Tang Yan's arm. Sun Yushi was pressing down on it so hard that the blood had started to flow back, turning the foretube a deep crimson. "Of course not. How could I possibly blame you?" After I finished speaking, I pulled the girls a safe distance away. Only then did Sun Yushi notice, sobbing and apologizing. She frantically tried to massage Tang Yan's arm, watching Tang Yan howl in pain and the needle go askew. I cheerfully hummed a tune and pressed the emergency call button. I obtained Tang Yan's medical report from the doctor. As expected, it's a lung infection, but compared to my past life, his condition is more severe, accompanied by pulmonary hemorrhage, cerebral hypoxia, and so on. In my past life, even after all that torment, I still managed to hold on for 5 years. I wonder how long Tang Yen can last in this one. Half an hour later, I returned to the hospital room and laid out Tang Yan's condition for him, holding nothing back. The doctor said the shock caused brain damage, which will likely affect your cognitive function, and your lungs. Sigh, forget strenuous exercise, you'll probably end up bedridden, an invalid. I spat out the word useless with venomous emphasis. Tang Yen, predictably, couldn't take it. In disbelief, he clutched his head, fingers digging into his hair before slowly dragging them down, a guttural roar of agony tearing from his throat. I handed the report to Mrs. Tang, who had just arrived, and she flew into a rage. This time, she didn't come at me. Instead, she marched over to Sun Yushi, who was cowering in the corner, and slapped her across the face. "You bitch, this is all your fault. Look what you've done to my son. Damn you, why didn't you just drown?" Sun Yushi covered her stinging cheek, tears silently streaming down her face. Her eyes darted towards Tang Yen, who was lying down, still clinging to the hope that he would stand up for her. My 4 friends and I stood off to the side, watching the drama unfold. With the 4 of them by my side, even Tang's mother would have to think twice before trying to take her anger out on me. Tang Yen was in no mood for chivalry now, lost in his own world. He was completely oblivious to Sun Yushi's reproachful gaze. "No, this can't be right. It must be a dream, a nightmare. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Tang Yen suddenly lowered his hands, strained to lift his head, and gazed at me with profound tenderness. "Xiao Nan, we're married now. Could you sell the company and use the money for my treatment?" Tang Yan's parents run a chain of supermarkets. In recent years, their profits have been steadily declining due to the impact of online shopping platforms, but they can still afford the money for his medical treatment. Even in his current state, he still hasn't forgotten to set his sights on my company. The hospital room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. Even Tang's mother seemed stunned for a moment, fearing I might refuse. Tang Yen quickly made me a promise. "Once I recover, I promise we'll have a grand wedding redo, making you the happiest woman in the world. And of course, once I'm better, I'll pay you back the money from selling the company, principal plus interest." If not for the suffering of my past life, I would have been truly moved by his sincerity. I barely held it in, almost bursting out laughing. Then, feigning reluctance, she said, "But how can I possibly leave to handle company matters when you're in this state? I'm your wife, I should be by your side." Mrs. Tang rolled her eyes and mustered a warm, gentle smile. Xiaonan, dear, menial tasks like these don't require you to lift a finger. She shot a venomous glare at Sun Yushi, who was still in tears. Some people just have to pay the price for their actions. I couldn't agree more with that. Tang's mother immediately assigned Sun Yushi to care for Tang Yan in the hospital room, completely disregarding the fact that Sun Yushi herself was still unwell. She said she had already planned to fire Sun Yushi's mother, and this would be their chance to redeem themselves. Sun Yushi was naturally unwilling, but the 4 young ladies with me immediately stepped forward, vowing they were willing to stay and take care of Tang Yan. Seeing the 4 beautiful, tall women, Sun Yushi grew anxious. Of course I should be the one to take care of brother Yan myself. My mother is a housekeeper, and I've known how to care for others since I was a child. I don't need anyone else interfering. I let out a deliberately reluctant sigh and agreed to the arrangement, and so began Sun Yushi's miserable career as a caregiver, to get updates on them as soon as possible. I even hired a guy with some connections at the hospital who was also an avid photographer. Every day, the guy would send me a few video clips. For the first few days, Sun Yushi was over the moon. She was thrilled at the chance to be alone with Tang Yan, hoping to nurture their relationship. But Tang Yan was deathly ill, hooked up to machines all over. Forget getting close, he couldn't even turn over without help. And Tang's mother clearly despised Sun Yushi. She was dead set on punishing the little tramp who seduced her son, and she didn't even bother hiring an extra nurse. Every day, Sun Yushi not only had to feed Tang Yan and give him his medicine, staying up all night to keep him company, but she also had to bathe and change the clothes of the fastidious man. What Sun Yushi found most unbearable was that, since Tang Yan was bedridden, she had to take care of all his bodily waste. Although Sun Yushi was the housekeeper's daughter, she had grown up alongside Tang Yan and, apart from enduring a few snide remarks, had never done a day of hard, dirty work in her life. In just a few days, she visibly lost weight. She certainly didn't dare voice any complaints to Tang Ma, so she could only pour her grievances out to Tang Yan, unwilling to outright say she didn't want to care for Tang Yan. Sun Yushi resorted to indirect complaints, one day lamenting how rough her hands had become, the next clutching her waist with a persistent cough. Tang Yan was no fool. He knew perfectly well what Sun Yushi was angling for, but the look in his eyes when he regarded Sun Yushi grew increasingly inscrutable, until one day, right after she finished changing his socks, she suddenly snapped. She threw the filthy socks on the floor, stomped on them furiously with her foot, and then burst into loud sobs. "They're so dirty and stink so bad, why should I have to do it? I never forced you to jump into the sea to save me, why is everyone blaming me?" She lashed out without thinking. "I was in that water for ages, and I didn't end up like you, a couple of mouthfuls of seawater and you're laid up in bed, completely useless." Tang Yan, who was already feeling utterly wretched, finally snapped. He grabbed a fruit knife from the table and hurled it at Sun Yushi. Another wound had appeared on Sun Yushi's face. Clutching her face, she let out a piercing scream, which brought doctors and nurses running. I never found out how they resolved it, but in a video a few days later, they seemed to have made up. However, I noticed that in several clips, Tang Yan's gaze as he stared at Sun Yushi was sinister and deeply unsettling. Tang's mother hired another caregiver for Tang Yan, so Sun Yushi finally didn't have to deal with the mess herself anymore. I stopped paying attention to them and turned my focus to getting my own company in order. Ever since my parents passed away unexpectedly, I hadn't been putting my heart into running the company. Even before I married Tang Yan, he had been constantly brainwashing me, telling me to step out of the public eye and return to domestic life. In my past life, I didn't resist either. After my health failed, I even handed over all management authority to Tang Yan. In this life, I won't be that foolish again. This company is the very foundation I stand on. I racked my brains to remember who immediately switched sides back when I fell ill. They are my primary targets for removal. I'm terrified that once Tang Yan recovers a bit and realizes I have no intention of selling the company, he'll devise some new scheme to come after me. After all, he's lived 2 lives. The money he swindled from me in my past life allowed him to live in comfort and style. There's no way he'd give that up. I got tough and cleaned house throughout the entire company. I spoke with 4 young women. Their families favored sons over daughters, so they were sent out to work before they could even graduate. They didn't want to be hostesses, but their low education level left them with few other options. They all wanted to work for me, so I brought them into the company. 2 are in the PR department, and 2 are in sales. To my surprise, They actually managed to secure a few deals for me. They're happy. I'm happy. It's a win-win. Tang Yan calls me every day to ask about how things are going at my company. Perhaps because he wasn't feeling well, he became even more desperate to get his hands on my money. When I was unsure about a certain executive in the company, I would also probe him for information indirectly. Tang Yan wasn't without his suspicions. He would suddenly mention pivotal moments from a past life, events that had never happened in this one. I would just play dumb. If I genuinely couldn't remember, I'd make up an excuse or simply change the subject. But even if I slipped up occasionally, Tang Yan couldn't catch me. His mind really isn't as sharp as it used to be. He'd often question me, only to forget what he had said. Sometimes, I even had to remind him. We spent a whole month in this state of mutual probing. Tang Yan was being discharged from the hospital, and I drove there myself to pick him up. I had arrived over an hour early and was now standing right outside his hospital room door. I pulled the door open a crack, but the two people inside didn't notice a thing. Tang Yan looked pale and gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes, as if he had aged 10 years. He coughed incessantly, then spat on the ground, wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth with his hand. He grumbled that the hospital was full of quacks. He used to be so refined and eloquent. But now it's like he's a completely different person. This is his true self. Sun Yushi sat on the edge of the bed, right next to Tang Yan, and fed him a piece of the apple she had cut. Brother Yan, please don't let Mother Tang scold me again, okay? The place where she hit me last time still hurts. Tang Yan glanced at the wounds on Sun Yushi's face. Both scars were left by him, even after a month of healing. The scars were still clearly visible. Tang Yan pushed her away with a hint of disgust. How can you even say that? If it weren't for you, would I be this sick? Cough cough cough. A flicker of resentment passed through Sun Yushi's eyes. I watched as she unsteadily helped Tang Yan up and led him towards the bathroom. Tang Yan's angry voice rang out, "Damn it, you're just a housekeeper's daughter. Can't you even take care of someone properly? Didn't your mother teach you anything?" Sun Yushi's sobs began to echo in the air. I brought both Tang Yan and Sun Yushi back to the Tang residence, with Sun Yushi supporting him. Tang Yan looked every bit the devoted husband, while I trailed behind them. The moment we stepped inside, Tang Yan was immediately surrounded by several people. They were all Tang Yan's closest brothers, and two of them were even witnesses to the cruise ship incident. "Brother Tang, we've been meaning to visit you in the hospital, but things have been a bit hectic, couldn't find the time." "Exactly. Now that you're out, we figured it was time to celebrate." Tang Yan forced a smile and hugged each of them in turn. Whether it was sincere or not, he played the part perfectly. No sooner had Tang Yan sat down than he was seized by a fit of involuntary coughing. His close friends all frowned, and the one sitting nearest to him even hastily excused himself, claiming he needed the restroom, and hurried away. Tang Yan covered his mouth, his whole body trembling. It was impossible to tell whether it was from the coughing or from sheer anger. Once he had finally managed to catch his breath, he weakly gestured for Sun Yushi to serve tea to everyone. It was clear they all knew about the relationship between Tang Yan and Sun Yushi. They called me sister-in-law to my face, but their eyes were all on Sun Yushi. I played along with a smile. After all, I was the one who leaked Tang Yan's discharge date, precisely to get them all to come over. When I saw Sun Yushi in the kitchen, I pretended to be on a phone call. "That's right, all his friends are here. I heard a few of them are from business families." Ayen insisted I host them properly. "My in-laws will be bringing their friends over soon too." "Yes, it's to formally introduce me to everyone." When I turned back, Sun Yushi was already gone. I returned to the living room with a smile, where Sun Yushi was sitting next to Tang Yan, whispering in his ear. Upon seeing me, Tang Yan pushed Sun Yushi away and took several labored breaths. His lingering symptoms were quite severe, marked by either coughing or difficulty breathing. "Xiaonan, I left my ID at the hospital and I still need it. Could you do me a favor and go get it for me?" His eyes were shifty, but he insisted I go and retrieve it. I secretly recorded our conversation, then picked up my bag with a smile and left. Just as I reached the door, a delivery guy showed up. I took a deliberate look. There was seafood, barbecue, fried skewers, and all sorts of foods that are off limits for lung conditions, plus several crates of alcohol, beer, baijiu, and spirits, the whole lot. I went back to my villa with a smile, then called the hospital and asked a nurse to help look for my lost ID. I quickly lay down for a nap. It looked like things were going to get lively that evening. 3 hours later, My phone started buzzing like crazy. The moment I answered, a chaotic cacophony assaulted my ears: shouts, curses, wails, and the sound of things being smashed, all tangled together in a deafening roar. Tang's mother's voice, hoarse and laced with curses, came screaming through the receiver. "Zhou Xiaonan, where the hell are you? Get to the hospital now. Tang Yan is fading fast." I worked my voice into a tone that hovered between frantic panic and choked sobs. "What happened?" "He was perfectly fine when I left. Aunt Tang just told me to stop asking questions and get over there," then hung up. This was my second time outside the emergency room. Sun Yushi was kneeling there, hands clasped together as if in prayer, or perhaps in desperate pleading. Aunt Tang stood with her hands on her hips, her face a mask of fury. Before she could even get a word out, I took the initiative. "What on earth happened? I was only gone for a short while, and he's already in trouble. What are you all trying to do? Does this family fall apart the moment I'm not here?" Auntie Tang was intimidated by my fury and couldn't meet my eyes. To save face, she immediately shifted the blame and kicked Sun Yushi, who was kneeling there. "Who told you to order all that food and alcohol? You know perfectly well Xiao Yan hasn't fully recovered yet. Are you trying to kill him?" Sun Yushi was kicked to the ground. Revealing the bright red handprint on her face, she retorted. "But you and Uncle Tang were both there. Neither of you told Brother Yan to drink less." Aunt Tang flew into a rage again, grabbing Sun Yushi's hair and slamming her head against the wall. I quickly backed away, afraid of getting blood on my clothes. Thanks to the doctor's efforts, Tang Yan was pulled through once more. This time, Tang's mother didn't want Sun Yushi anywhere near her son. She wanted me to stay and take care of him. I declined, using the excuse of needing to handle company assets. I didn't go back to the hospital, not until Tang Yan called me half a month later. His voice was frail, like that of a man on his deathbed. "Xiaonan, why haven't you come to see me?" I explained gently to him that I was in the middle of raising funds, preparing for an IPO. "An IPO?" His voice suddenly rose, agitating his lungs and sending him into another coughing fit. "Ahem, why go public? You promised you'd sell the company to pay for my treatment, you know. The doctor said a lung transplant is my only option now, but the procedure is risky, the technology isn't fully developed yet, and it requires a huge amount of money. Xiaonan, I'm begging you, please, save me. For the sake of how much I've loved you." I turned my head away and forced myself to think of the saddest moments of my life, just to keep from laughing out loud. "Love me? He actually dares to say he loves me, with his memories of the past life restored. He knows perfectly well he never loved me at all, yet even now, he still tries to deceive me." I told him a listed company could fetch a much better price. Skeptical but intrigued, he urged me to come see him at the hospital right away so we could discuss the company matters in person. Of course I'll go. The more he suffers, the more it pleases me. I casually picked up a few documents I had forged long ago and entered the hospital room. Tang Yan now looked as if he had been desiccated, withered, sallow, and utterly lifeless. There was no sign of Sun Yushi nearby. For my brutal death in my past life, Tang Yan was the mastermind, and Sun Yushi was his accomplice. Tang Yan will pay with his life, and I won't let Sun Yushi get away either. I began by asking about Tang Yan's condition. He fixed his gaze on me with somewhat clouded eyes. I gave his emaciated hand a couple of reassuring pats, then produced the documents and went through them page by page for him. A spark of life returned to Tang Yan's eyes. "They're really willing to acquire it for 1 billion, absolutely, I'd be delighted. The company's prospects are excellent. I just need to wait until after the IPO to sign the contract." A look of concern crossed my face. "But you need the money urgently, and I'm worried." Tang Yan gritted his teeth. "It's fine, just go ahead and do it. My parents have some savings. If that's not enough, I'll have them sell the supermarket first. It's been losing money for years anyway." That was exactly what I was waiting to hear. He threw himself into the role of the devoted male lead, pouring out his undying love and eternal vows to me. I played along, pretending he was my one and only, even spouting nonsense about having 8 children together with a straight face. It was all just mutual deception anyway. Who was any more innocent than the other? Then I changed the subject and asked about Sun Yushi. "Where's Yushi? You ended up like this for her sake. Even if your mother doesn't like her, she should at least show some concern." Tang Yan fell silent. I knew exactly why. A week ago, Sun Yushi and Tang Yan had a huge fight. Sun Yushi is planning to sue Tang Yan for assault. The reason? The Tang family is trying to fire her mother. In the video, Sun Yushi was making a scene in the hospital room. "I saved you once, and now you've saved me. we're even. But what gives you the right to fire my mother? She's getting on in years, her legs aren't what they used to be, and it'll be hard for her to find another job. Are you trying to drive us both to our graves? I tucked the blanket around Tang Yan and sighed. You were so good to her before, even bought her all those luxury gifts. Who would have thought that when you fell this ill and needed money, she'd just vanish into thin air? Anyone with a shred of common sense knows you shouldn't drink, yet she went and bought so much anyway. Was she deliberately trying to humiliate you in front of your friends? Or worse, what if you had died? My words made Tang Yan's fist clench tightly. Seeing that my goal was achieved, I made an excuse about having work at the company and left. Of course. These little provocations aimed at Tang Yan alone weren't enough. I wrote an anonymous letter of complaint, reporting that the supermarket owned by Tang Yan's family was selling expired food products and that the store posed fire safety hazards. Shortly after, the food safety and fire departments penalized the supermarket, ordering it to suspend operations for rectification. Just as they had dealt with that and were about to reopen, I reported the supermarket for tax evasion. I had only intended to give the Tang family a hard time, but I hadn't expected they were also taking kickbacks and issuing fake invoices. With the combined penalties for these offenses, Mr. Tang, as the legal representative, was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and the supermarket's business license was revoked. After a series of fines, Tang Yan was moved from the VIP ward to a standard room. He started calling me frequently, hoping I would cover his medical bills. I grew tired of making excuses. So the next time he called, I just broke down sobbing. I told him I'd been caught in an investment scam and begged Tang Yan to let me temporarily use the deed to his family's villa as collateral for a loan. Just let me get through this rough patch, and I'll pay you back double. Okay, Tang Yan, Tang Yan. Tang Yan heartlessly hung up the call. I tossed my phone aside and went back to enjoying the massage and snacks from the girls. The guy who's into photography sent me another video. Tang Yan went to find Sun Yushi and asked her for money. If you don't pay up, I want everything I ever gave you back, all of it. Oh, and that apartment I bought for you, too. I can't stand this 4-person hospital room. I need a private room to recover properly. These people snore and grind their teeth all night. There was no way Sun Yushi was giving up what she had. She started pushing Tang Yan's wheelchair toward the door. I haven't even sued you yet for slashing my face with a knife. And you have the nerve to ask me for money. My reconstructive surgery alone is going to cost over 100,000. Besides, once you give something to me, it's mine. What gives you the right to ask for it back? Don't let Tang Yan's gender fool you. He was so severely ill that he was no match for Sun Yushi. In a matter of seconds, Sun Yushi had shoved him out the door and slapped him across the face. Get out of here now, or I'm calling the police. And just look at that, their so-called unbreakable love. Soon after, I got a call from Tang Ma, my mother-in-law, whose heart is smaller than a needle's eye, had lost all her former bluster. She told me to sue Sun Yushi in my capacity as the lawful wife to get the house back. That's your and Xiaoyan's marital property. If you just file a lawsuit, that bitch won't have a leg to stand on. Tang Yan was there with his mother. He took the phone, his voice sounding utterly defeated. I must have been blind. I never imagined she was that kind of person. Xiaonan, please help me get the apartment back. From now on, I'll live only for you. As it turns out, that apartment was a small duplex that Tang Yan bought specifically to placate Sun Yushi after he and I got our marriage certificate. It cost over 5 million. What's mine is mine. I certainly won't let anyone else have it for free. The day Sun Yushi received the court summons, she went out of her way to call and curse me out. I figured there was a reason for her poor academic performance, so I quickly gave her a crash course in legal basics and even suggested, as a friendly gesture, that she should go consult a lawyer. As I was leaving work, I saw Sun Yushi waiting for me at the company entrance, and she'd brought her mother along. The moment her mother saw me, she dropped to her knees. Her wailing cries quickly drew a crowd of onlookers. Please, Miss Zhou, have mercy on us. My daughter had nothing to do with your marriage to Mr. Tang. Don't drive us to our deaths, I beg you. A lot of people raised their phones. Sun Yushi was determined to use public opinion to cyberbully me. She and her mother kept kowtowing to me frantically. Even as the police took them away, they were still recounting her tragic life story and the bullying I supposedly inflicted on her. And just as she had hoped, public opinion began to boil over. But when the furious netizens stormed my Weibo, they discovered all those videos I had posted before. On our wedding day, my groom jumped into the sea to save her, while while I knelt outside the medical room, praying. There were also videos of Tang Yan lying in the hospital bed, with Sun Yushi kissing his cheek and feeding him fruit. There was even a video from the day Tang Yan was discharged from the hospital. He sent me to fetch his documents while he himself had his arm around Sun Yushi, drinking with his buddies. Finally, there was an audio recording. My dear mother-in-law and my loyal husband urged me to sue Sun Yushi as the lawful wife to get that apartment back. Public opinion swung entirely in my favor, with everyone condemning Sun Yushi for being a thief, crying stop thief. How utterly disgusting. How dare she go and make a scene at that young lady's workplace. If it were me, I'd be too ashamed to show my face in public without wrapping myself in a pound of cling film first. So the groom was having an affair with her from the very beginning. That makes you wonder, was the falling into the water incident even real? Hey girl, are you getting a divorce or not? If you don't answer me, I'm coming with a forklift to scoop you up and take you away. I thought the other woman would be stunning, but with a face that looks like it was built for advancing the nation through technology. What on earth did he see in her? Is no one going to call this guy out? He had his fun with the woman, and now he wants to take back the gifts he gave her. Sun Yushi is now facing the backlash of public opinion. Someone found out where she lived and dumped dead rats and pigeons at her doorstep. The words "die" were scrawled in red paint across her front door. Whenever she or her mother steps outside, they are met with scornful stares and whispers. Some even threaten to run them over with a car. Sun Yushi hastily went live to clear her name. In an attempt to garner sympathy, she pulled out childhood photos of herself and Tang Yan and began recounting their ambiguous youthful history. In the end, not only did she fail to save herself, but she dragged Tang Yan down with her. So he's the real culprit, trying to have his cake and eat it too. What a piece of trash. Tang Yan couldn't stay in the hospital any longer. Internet users kept barging in to take photos of him and ask about his current state of mind. Even when the inpatient ward was placed under strict security, some bold individuals still tried to scale the walls. His fellow patients in the ward had had enough and began to blame Tang Yan for the disruption. Tang Yan was essentially asked to leave and had no choice but to be discharged and return home. After all that turmoil, his health took a turn for the worse. He called and asked me to drop the lawsuit, saying, "I never expected Sun Yushi to make such a scene. She used to be so gentle and sweet. This isn't like her at all. Zhou Xiaonan, what on earth did you do to push Yushi to this point?" It was as if his mind had descended into chaos. One moment he was talking about his past life, the next he was lamenting the misery of his current one. I didn't hang up the phone, I just set it aside and went about my business. An hour later, when I picked up the phone again, I could hear Tang Yan sobbing to himself on the other end of the line. It shouldn't be like this. What went wrong? Cough cough. How could I possibly drop the lawsuit? The court held the hearing as scheduled and ruled that Sun Yushi must return the property, along with everything Tang Yan bought for her after we got our marriage license. Sun Yushi caused a huge scene in the courtroom and even injured a bailiff, resulting in a 15-day detention. I immediately had all of Sun Yushi's and her mother's belongings thrown out of the house, and I put the property up for sale that very same day. By the time Sun Yushi got out 15 days later, the house had long since changed hands. She ran to the Tang family again, planning to play the victim card by leveraging her past relationship with Tang Yan, but the moment she finished her impassioned speech, Tang Yan's eyes rolled back and he fainted. After the hospital examination, they suggested Tang's mother transfer him to a higher-level hospital. I went to see the doctor in secret, but to my surprise, she recognized me. "Your husband is that idiot who jumped into the sea to save his mistress." "Oh, I mean, my condolences," she said. "Tang Yan has, at most, 3 months left to live." Of course, I didn't hide anything and told Mrs. Tang the whole truth. Amidst Aunt Tang's heart-wrenching sobs, I promised I would raise the money immediately and do everything in my power to get Tang Yan the treatment he needed. I sighed. Who knows what Sun Yushi said to A Yan when she came to see him? It must have been awful to make him faint like that. Aunt Tang wiped her tears away. Her face was dark and stormy, and she didn't say another word. The very next morning, I got a call from the police. I rushed to the police station only to find out that last night, Auntie Tang went to find Sun Yushi with a knife and hacked off both of her feet. Even Sun Yushi's mother had one of her arms chopped off. When I went to visit my mother-in-law, she seemed completely unhinged, muttering incessantly, "You shameless bitch, sleeping with my husband, and then telling your own daughter to seduce my son. You're a filthy old whore, and your daughter's a little slut." After an evaluation confirmed she was indeed insane, I paid to have her admitted to a psychiatric hospital. I then instructed my lawyer to inform my father-in-law, who is in prison. We're family, how could you keep something like this from us? The prison authorities said that my father-in-law, provoked, got into a fight with his cellmate. Given the severity of the incident, his sentence is likely to be extended. After handling other matters, I finally made my way to Tang Yan's hospital room. Tang Yan's eyes had grown completely clouded. He stared at me for a long moment before seeming to recognize who I was. He smiled, but tears welled up in his eyes. Shannan, please forgive me, I know I was wrong, I was completely deluded. Sun Yushi actually told me I was dying and to leave all my inheritance to her. I'm such a bastard, I can't believe I abandoned you for her. You trusted me so completely, you always had my best interests at heart. How could I? How could I? Cough cough. I smiled, leaned close to his ear, and whispered. Tang Yan, do you believe in reincarnation? Care to guess why you've had such a miserable life this time around? He was bewildered for a moment, then his eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at me. But you said you weren't reborn, you lied to me. I laughed heartily, recounting to him, one by one, the fates that had befallen his parents and Sun Yushi. If it weren't for your mother's breakdown, I'd never have known that Sun Yushi's mother was your father's mistress. To let his mistress live under his own roof for 20 years, what remarkable tolerance. I'm not worthy of such magnanimity. I just wonder if Sun Yushi shares any blood relation with you. Tang Yan feebly raised his hand, trying to grab me, but I dodged out of his reach. Why? I already know I was wrong. Why can't you forgive me? Why did you let me end up like this? Don't you love me? I promise, from now on, I'll only love you. We can have a good life together, just spend the money to cure me. Cough, cough, I shrugged my shoulders. It's too late, Tang Yan, too late. The doctors have already issued a critical condition notice. You only have a few days left, make the most of them. I originally wanted Sun Yushi to come to the hospital to see you one last time, but the things she said were so vicious. No matter how much I tried to persuade her, she refused to come. Your so-called childhood sweetheart romance was truly fragile. Feeling even more regretful now. Good, you should be. Tang Yan strained with all his might to sit up, only to collapse heavily back onto the bed. The monitor let out a piercing, shrieking alarm. I slowly backed out of the room as the medical staff rushed in. After hours of resuscitation efforts, the doctor told me to accept my loss. Accept what loss? With a beaming smile, I flushed Tang Yan's ashes down the drain. The very next day, I boarded a yacht with the 4 lovely ladies who had once been my bridesmaids. A clear sky, a blazing sun, and the boundless sea. A brand new life begins here. The end. Story 2. At her daughter's birthday party, she made a wish in German over the candles. I hope this year Auntie Vivi Cho can become my mom. Her husband smiled and ruffled her hair. Soon, your wish will come true. I stood frozen in place, the cake in my hand slipping to the ground in an instant. My husband looked concerned. What's wrong? I shook my head repeatedly, smiling as I replied, just a slip of the hand. Only I knew the truth. I had panicked upon understanding the German, losing my grip on the cake. Zhang seems to have forgotten that I grew up in Germany and only returned to China for university. Back then, he learned German just to get closer to me after finding out. Even our daughter's German was taught by me bit by bit. Now, Zhang wiped the floor clean with a towel, then cut another piece and held it in his hand to feed me. It's okay, if you can't hold it steady, I'll feed you. This time, I didn't take it but took a step back instead. I don't feel like eating right now. The daughter stuffed a big bite of cake into her mouth, mumbling with her cheeks full. I'm still here, you too. At least tone down the PDA in front of me. Our 7-year-old daughter still had chubby baby cheeks. Her delicate features strikingly similar to Zhang, equally exquisite and beautiful. Zhang pulled me into his embrace right in front of our daughter, raising an eyebrow defiantly. Being good to my own wife is just part of daily life, sweetheart, you'll have to get used to it. Our daughter placed the cake on the table and came running into my arms, nuzzling against me. No way, it's my birthday today, Mom belongs to me. She held me tight, but unlike usual, I didn't smile and pat her head. The daughter sensed something unusual and raised her head, asking pitifully, Mommy, why won't you hug me either? Are you teaming up with Daddy to bully me now? Zhang burst into laughter, and I looked at my daughter, speaking calmly. I was wondering if my daughter and husband, who usually seem to love me so much, might have found someone they like more outside. For a moment, my daughter froze in place. Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? Zhang's lips curled back instantly. And when he looked up, his eyes were filled with deep affection as he took my hand and caressed it. Of course, both Nyen Nyen and I love you the most. How could you think otherwise? I quietly withdrew my hand. After all this, they still tried to deceive me. They clearly forgot that what I hate most is being lied to. When I married him, I told him clearly that if I ever discovered even the slightest deception from him, I would leave him forever. And he swore in front of everyone that he would remain loyal to me for a lifetime. After all, I could choose to return to Germany and never see him again, but now, I don't even know how long he's been unfaithful. Even my beloved daughter has taken the side of that other woman. 5 years of teaching and dedication were wiped out in an instant. I thought I would break down in tears and argue with them fiercely. Unexpectedly, I was calm. So calm that I began to think about where I should go from here. I abruptly pulled my daughter away from my arms. I'm tired, you guys go on without me. When I pulled my daughter away, her eyes were full of disbelief. I didn't want to comfort her, just quietly listened as she burst into tears behind me. Zaingu gently soothed my daughter. Don't cry, mommy might not be feeling well, let me go check on her. Be good, Nyen Nyen. Our daughter sniffled and nodded. Then, just as I was about to close the bedroom door, he forced his way in. I saw a message suddenly pop up on his phone. Want to come to my place tonight? Zaingu didn't notice, frowning with eyes full of concern as he leaned closer. What's wrong, L? I lowered my gaze to avoid his eyes and spoke directly. I saw the message that popped up on your phone. Then, right in front of him, I snatched his phone, unlocked it, and placed it before him. Hurry up and reply. Don't keep them waiting. You still have to go and comfort them. Zaingu's face flashed with a hint of panic before he immediately tossed his phone aside to show his loyalty. My top priority right now is to make my L happy. As for others, I don't know them. As he spoke, his lips moved closer to mine, his eyes flickering with desire. L. I was pinned in his embrace, unable to break free. As he smirked and whispered in my ear, I knew you wouldn't have the heart to push me away. He buried his face in the crook of my neck, and in an instant, the door outside was banging loudly. Mom, Dad, I don't feel well. Zaingu's eyes cleared up, and he immediately opened the door to ask anxiously, Nyen Nyen, what's wrong with you? The daughter, clutching her stomach and crouching on the ground, quickly replied in German, Daddy, I pretended to have a stomachache on purpose so we could leave. You said you'd take me to play with Auntie Vivicio today, that's why I'm so eager. She didn't lower her voice, tears nearly spilling from her eyes. It was the first time I witnessed my daughter's acting skills being so superb. If I couldn't understand, I'd probably be panicking uncontrollably. Zaingu snapped to attention in an instant, his expression filled with urgency. Don't be afraid, Daddy will take you to the hospital. He picked up his daughter like a princess and turned to speak to me. You stay home and wait for us to come back. Buried in Zaingu's arms, my daughter looked at me while crying. Mom, I walked up to her, gently stroked her face, speaking softly, don't be afraid, Mom will be waiting for you at home. The daughter's eyes lit up instantly. After responding with an she was led out by Zaingu. After a while, I saw through the window my lively daughter being led by an equally spirited Zaingu. There was no trace of illness or urgency left. I averted my gaze, biting my lip hard to keep myself from crying out. Deep down, I knew they wouldn't be coming home tonight. I strived to stay rational and contact the visa office regarding matters related to moving to Germany. Because I'd been in contact multiple times, the visa office quickly responded to my message. As long as I bring all the required documents for processing, I can probably leave here in about half a month. After receiving the clear news, I shut down my computer and smiled at my reflection in the small mirror in front of me. There's just half a month left before I can go home. I should be happy. By the next morning, I still hadn't seen any sign of the father and daughter returning home. The only message in my phone was from Zaingu. L. Nyen Nyen's stomach still hurts badly. The doctor suggested we stay for observation. We'll come home tomorrow. By the way, a picture was also included, showing me and my daughter sitting on a hospital chair. In the photo, there was still a trace of cream at the corner of my daughter's mouth. Though I clearly remembered her lips being clean before we left the house, couldn't even act convincingly. I didn't reply and left for the visa office to apply for a visa. As I stepped out, my gaze was drawn to the bracelet on my wrist. This brand is my latest favorite. When this necklace was released, it was only available for purchase by queuing in person in Germany, and it was limited edition. Upon learning this, Zaingu specifically flew to Germany and waited in line for 8 hours to buy it for me. At that moment, I truly felt like the happiest woman in the world. Nowadays, I shook my head, took off the bracelet, and threw it into the trash. When I finished processing my visa and came out, I happened to run into my daughter and Zaingu passing by. For a moment, the three of us locked eyes, and Zaingu and my daughter froze in place. What are you doing here? I neatly organized the documents in my hand. Just handling some paperwork. I'm going on a business trip to Germany. A flicker of panic flashed in Zaingu's eyes as he tried to maintain his composure while asking me, "But isn't your German not good?" I curved my eyes into crescents, lying with a smile. "That's exactly why I need you to teach me." He immediately let out a sigh of relief, then trotted over to take my hand. "That's perfect. Let's go home together." My daughter held a bag in one hand and grasped my other hand, her smile radiant. "Yay. I know a little too. I want to teach mommy as well." They laughed joyfully, holding my hands on either side. Only I couldn't laugh, the chill in my heart endlessly spreading. This place is far from my home, and even farther from the hospital near my house. The only possibility is that the Auntie Vivicio they mentioned lives nearby. The perfume scent on both sides was too strong, and after enduring it as long as I could, I coughed several times in a row. Zaingu immediately tensed up and asked me what was wrong. I took a mask out of my bag and put it on, speaking calmly. "Your perfume is irritating my nose. I have rhinitis." They never use perfume at home to avoid triggering it. In an instant, both of their expressions grew even more flustered. Zaingu hastily explained in a panic, "Perhaps the smell from the patient in the next bed over from Nyen Nyen overwhelmed us." My daughter immediately let go of my hand and trotted over to Zaingu's side. "Since I might bother mom with the smell, I'll stay away from her. After all, my daughter is still quite young," and she couldn't quite hide the smile on her face. "I don't understand why she dislikes me so much, why she's so happy at any chance to be away from me." Unlike usual, I didn't try to cheer her up. I just responded with a simple My daughter froze for a moment. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the father and daughter exchange a glance, both equally bewildered. After returning home, my daughter pulled out a Hermes bag from behind her back and held it up to me, her eyes sparkling. "Mom, look, Dad and I spent ages picking out this design. It was always like this before." Whenever Zaingu noticed I was unhappy, he would find a way to cheer me up. This time, the method was giving me a bag I had been eyeing for a long time. Both father and daughter looked at me with the same nervous anticipation. I sighed, took the bag, and said with a smile, "I really like it. Perhaps I'm just overthinking everything." Zaingu's eyes immediately lit up, circling around me. "Glad you like it, glad you like it. So, what would you like to eat for lunch?" My daughter chimed in from the side, "I want sweet and sour pork ribs today." Zaingu picked up our daughter and brought her close to me. "Then we'll have to ask mom if she wants it too." Do you want it?" I hugged my bag tightly and nodded with a smile. "I'll eat whatever Nyen Nyen likes." "That's awesome, thank you, Mom." My daughter grabbed Zaingu's hand and pulled her toward the kitchen. "Hurry up, Dad." Looking at them, the knot in my heart loosened slightly. I sat on the sofa and took out my laptop to get some work done. A friend request popped up on my phone soon after. "It's such an adorable profile picture." I accepted without a second thought. A message quickly came through from the other side. "So, do you like the bag I picked out?" In that instant, I realized it was the infamous Vivicio they'd mentioned, deliberately adding me to provoke. At this moment, I just want to slap myself. How could I have had a moment of weakness towards them, even considering staying to continue living a good life? Trash will always be trash, just wrapped in a layer of acting to hide their shame. I didn't respond, but Vivicio didn't seem to mind and sent me another photo. It's a live photo of him and Zaingu sharing the same cup of water. Through the reflective glass, I saw it was my daughter who took the picture. And there was even sound in the photo. "Vivicio, Mom and my dad are such a perfect match." Vivicio sent a message asking, "So, how do you like our couple photos?" "There's more, lots more." I flipped my phone face down on the table, instinctively retching over and over. "So disgusting." I leaned against the table, retching over the trash can. Soon, rapid footsteps approached me, and Zaingu patted my back anxiously, asking, "What's wrong? Don't scare me like this." I retched for a long time but nothing came up, then shakily stood straight. It might be because the noodles I had this morning were too greasy. My daughter handed me a cup of warm water. "Mom, drink some water." I glanced at the water, and that photo resurfaced in my mind again. I shoved it away violently and vomited into the trash can for what felt like an eternity. My daughter's dress was drenched by me, her lips quivering with before she burst into tears. "Mommy, I hate you. Why do I always have to comfort you? You're nothing like Vivi Chio's mom who spoils me. You can't even compare to a single bit of Auntie Vivi Chio," she cried louder and louder. After all, she was just a child, too distraught to realize she had said something inappropriate. Zangu's expression changed instantly. "Nyen Nyen, what are you saying? Who is Vivi Chio's mother?" I held my daughter's hand and asked softly. My daughter was crying in hiccups. I crouched down and quietly watched her. Looking at the daughter I carried for 10 months and risked my life to give birth to, I now feel such unfamiliarity. At 10 months old, I noticed her love for drawing and spent half a year's salary to build a dedicated art studio for her at home. She loved bedtime stories, and no matter how tired I was during the day, I would always find new stories to tell her at night, a tradition that continues to this day. She had a sensitive stomach since childhood, so I devoted a great deal of time to researching recipes and preparing customized meals just for her. I always thought it was my successful parenting that taught her to cheer me up whenever I was in a bad mood. "So in your heart, is it always mom who's forcing you?" Zangu quickly spoke up. "No, the child is just talking nonsense." "What, Vivi Chio mom? That was just a character the child encountered during a kindergarten performance. Hurry up and explain it clearly to mom." "Nyen Nyen." But my daughter was having an emotional breakdown and couldn't hear anything. She shook off my hand and shouted, "Everything I said is true. I just hate mom." "Daddy, didn't you promise to change me a new mom after my birthday? I don't want to wait anymore." "Wah." Zangu quickly covered his daughter's mouth. "Don't talk nonsense, child." Zangu immediately picked up his daughter and carried her to the room. "Alright, she might just be sleepy." I slowly stood up and tugged at the hem of Zangu's clothes. "Since our daughter wants a different mother, I'll grant her wish." Zangu froze in place, clearly flustered. Don't say that. I can't bear the pain of losing you. I'll take the child back to the room first. Wait for me." Then Zangu immediately picked up the child and rushed to the room, covering her mouth to prevent her from speaking along the way. I suddenly lost all strength and sat dazed beside the sofa. The attitude of letting things slide suddenly disappeared. I even thought that perhaps I should take this opportunity to directly confront them, divorce Zangu, and return to my hometown in Germany, but I also worry that Zangu might not be willing to let me go. Lost in thought, I didn't notice when Zangu sat beside me and took my hand. Don't be angry anymore. You know Nyen Nyen is only 5 years old. She probably heard something she shouldn't have recently, which is why she spoke so hurtfully. Don't worry, I'll make sure to properly teach her once she wakes up." "So," Zangu suddenly grabbed my hand tightly, "you were just saying that in anger, right?" His eyes held an almost perverse possessiveness. My hair stood on end. I understand that if I openly declared my intention to leave him, he would never let me go, even in his heart. Both he and our daughter prefer Vivi Chio. I took a deep breath, murmured in agreement, and then forced a smile. Yes, I was just too angry. Visibly, Zangu let out a sigh of relief. In the following days, Zangu became much more sensitive than before, sticking to my side every step of the way. Our daughter seemed unhappy, but whatever Zangu said to her made her force a smile whenever she faced me. I maintained my usual expression, pretending not to notice her forced cheerfulness. They used to go out every other day, but now, even for work, Zangu stays by my side. I often hear his phone ring, and my daughter's eyes light up for a moment. I suppose the ringtone is Vivi Chio's exclusive one, but Zangu would always pick up and glance at it before hanging up immediately, afraid I might be unhappy, and would even explain, "This is a rival company maliciously calling him, not someone else." But because of this, I never got the chance to pack my things and leave. There was only 1 week left before my departure abroad. Since being in a relationship with Zangu, I've rarely gone back to Germany. My parents are different. They settled there long ago and only come during my wedding and every Chinese New Year. They are fluent in Chinese and never mention their life in Germany. So in my daughter's eyes, her grandparents simply live too far away to visit often. I've mentioned going to Germany with Zangu many times, and each time he would refuse, citing a busy work schedule. Gradually, I stopped bringing it up. He never asked either why I didn't return to my parents' home, but now, Vivi Chio sent me a message with her visa attached. "Even if you don't let Zane come out to accompany me, so what? He's already agreed to go to Germany with me. Just stay at home and guard it. Watching as both your daughter and husband prefer me more." I couldn't deny it. I couldn't wait for them to leave as soon as possible. Then Vivi Chio sent another message to provoke. Just wait and see how I'll take them away from you." As soon as the message was sent, Zaingu's phone rang again on the other side. This time, Zaingu picked it up after glancing at it and answered the call beside me. I heard Vivicio's coquettish hum from the other end of the phone. Zaingu clearly panicked a lot, covering his mouth and hurriedly coaxing a few words. "I'll be there soon." The daughter sprang up immediately and quickly responded, "Daddy, are you going to the company? I want to go too," since she was 4 years old. There have been times when the daughter went to the company with Zaingu, under the noble pretense of letting the child learn from an early age. Probably every time it was just an excuse to take the daughter to see Vivicio. Zaingu frowned, his eyes questioning. The company really needs me," I said gently. "I understand, go ahead." Then I looked at my daughter and smiled softly. "If Nyen Nyen wants to go with Daddy, then go." My daughter's eyes lit up instantly, and she immediately grabbed Zaingu's hand, ready to set off. "Let's go," Zaingu said to me solemnly. "Wait for me. This time, I will definitely come home." As soon as they got in the car, Vivicio sent me a message. "How about it? Doesn't it feel awful? This is what happens when you try to steal my man." "Humph. I took some medicine. Later we're going to do that thing," I replied directly. "It doesn't matter, it's yours." Then I turned off the screen and went straight to the study to print out a divorce agreement. Over the years, I haven't had many opportunities to sign agreements for Zaingu. Sometimes even he himself couldn't distinguish the handwriting. I picked up the pen and decisively signed one for myself. Then I breathed a sigh of relief. These days he's been sticking to me like glue, and I never had a chance to make my move. Now, I've finally got it. That evening, Zaingu really did come home as promised. There was just an extra hint of shower gel fragrance on him, as if he had just come back from a thorough wash. When he saw me, a flicker of desire flashed in his eyes. Then he held me tightly, burying his face in my shoulder and taking a deep breath. It's been so long since we. I resisted the urge to push him away, desperately wanting to ask him, "What, didn't Vivicio satisfy you, that you had to come home to me?" But Zaingu didn't notice my mood, just kept nuzzling against my ear. If this continues, I'll really end up doing marital things with Zaingu. In my desperation, I softened my voice and blurted out, "Honey, it's been so long since we had a drink. How about we have a little?" Only then did Zaingu pull away from my embrace, his dazed eyes flickering with a glimmer of light. "Okay, yeah, it's been so long since we last played," and to make sure he gets completely drunk, I deliberately put on a strapless dress I hadn't worn in ages. Zaingu's gaze was fixed on me like a wolf's. I handed him the spiked drink, watching as his eyes gradually grew hazy before he finally passed out. I breathed a sigh of relief and opened my phone to see a photo sent by Vivicio. It was an intimate photo of her and Zaingu. In the photo, Zaingu's face was flushed, buried in front. "He's not just like this, there's more." I sneered and raised my hand to take a selfie with Zaingu before sending it over. "Seems like he found you smelly and came back to me on purpose." I also included the recording of Zaingu's confession I had just captured. Vivicio replied extremely quickly, then launched into another lengthy discourse. I couldn't be bothered to read further, so I turned off my phone and prepared to sleep. It was already satisfying enough to have angered Vivicio. There were still 3 days left before departing for Germany. After waking up, Zaingu forgot many things due to his hangover and leaned on my shoulder, mumbling that he wanted to do it again tonight. Instinctively, I gagged in front of him. I gagged so violently it felt like the world was spinning. I never expected I would feel such strong aversion that even slightly intimate contact would be unbearable. Zaingu suddenly snapped awake and patted my back. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" I went along with his assumption and lied. "My stomach feels a bit uncomfortable." Zaingu's expression instantly turned tense, and he immediately got up, dressed, and prepared to take me to the hospital. As we were leaving, we happened to run into our daughter, who had just woken up. After a brief moment of surprise, she hurried over to us. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" I didn't speak up. It was Zaingu who answered for me. Immediately, she also insisted on going to the hospital with me. In the past, I would have only been moved by my daughter's thoughtfulness and intelligence in caring for me. Now, all I can think is whether she might have resented me a little more in her heart. I frowned as I sat in the car, while my daughter carefully massaged my stomach for me. In the driver's seat, Zaingu ran 3 red lights in a row before reaching the hospital and calling for a doctor to examine me. When we arrived at the attending physician's door, I saw a familiar face, out of the corner of my eye. I noticed my daughter's eyes light up in an instant. I glanced at the sign by the door. Just as I thought, it's Vivicio. No wonder my daughter went to the hospital on her birthday night, so it's because Auntie Vivicio is a doctor." The moment the door opened, Vivicio's pupils dilated, while only Zaingu remained unfazed as he helped me to my seat and asked, "Doctor, please take a look at my wife's stomach. It doesn't seem like a gastrointestinal issue." Vivicio froze for a moment. Only Zaingu continued asking, "What's wrong with you, doctor?" If it weren't for not wanting to expose myself, I would have clapped for Zaingu. It's such a pity that this acting doesn't win him an Oscar. Vivicio took a deep breath, relying on her professional skills to examine me, and then found an excuse to leave me alone in the office. "Congratulations, you're pregnant again." As she spoke, she threw the report in front of me. In the past, both Zaingu and I had looked forward to giving our daughter a little brother or sister. Even our daughter would think about what gifts to buy for her future sibling. Now that it's really happening, I just sneer and look up at Vivicio. "You're a doctor. Can you help me get rid of this child?" Vivicio looks at me with disbelief, somewhat indignant. "What's the matter? Weren't you just provoking me yesterday, saying how great it is to have a child, that it would tie Zain brother down?" I ignored the sarcasm in her words and simply said, "A man like her, if he cheats on you now, he'll cheat on others with his daughter in the future. Rather than tormenting myself by holding on, I might as well let you have him." Vivicio only cared about the latter part of what I said. "What do you mean by letting go?" I handed him a photo of my divorce agreement. "I will leave him, on the condition that you don't tell him about my pregnancy." Vivicio gave me a somewhat strange look, her lips twitching as if struggling to suppress something. "Fine, I agree." Taking advantage of her position, Vivicio didn't clearly inform Zaingu about my actual physical condition, so right in front of him, I removed the child and kept the report for myself. I left the divorce agreement and the report about terminating the pregnancy with Vivicio, asking her to courier them to my home address in a week. After some twists and turns, there was one day left before I returned home. During that day, Zaingu reverted to his former self. Their trip to Germany with Vivicio is also underway. Zaingu made an excuse that he also had a business trip, and his daughter pretended to choose to go with Zaingu. Great, everyone's lying about business trips. I'm also on a business trip. It was just that when he saw me packing all the important items, his breath hitched. Are there some things that shouldn't be taken?" I didn't turn around, continuing to put the items in. "All of them are needed." Zaingu stared at me intently, hoping to see something in me. To reassure him, I turned around and said with a smile, "I'm not leaving forever, and I even prepared a gift for you. You'll receive it in a week." Zaingu's eyes lit up, and her daughter overheard and came closer. "What about me, Mom?" I smiled and ruffled my daughter's hair. "Of course you have one too." I still feel a bit regretful that I couldn't see their reactions when they discovered the truth. It must have been quite a spectacle. At night, as we lay in bed, Zaingu held me tightly from behind and asked with a hint of unease, Are you really not hiding anything from me?" For a moment, I thought Zaingu had discovered something, but he just buried his head in my back, feeling gloomy. "I don't know why, but I feel so uneasy." I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, turned around, and held him tightly. "You're overthinking it. Maybe it's just that you and our daughter aren't used to being apart from me for so long for the first time." Zaingu murmured vaguely in agreement. To comfort him, I kept patting his back until he fell asleep, only stopping then. By the faint light from the window, I carefully studied the man before me, from university to marriage, until our daughter turned 5. His features have grown even more profound. He has those captivating eyes. If not for this accident, I might never have noticed. The affection was false. Indifference was the truth. What I despise most is deception. Yet it's what they're most accustomed to using on me. After waking up in the morning, Zaingu went to the airport ahead of me. From his perspective, I'm not traveling for work until tomorrow. Our daughter, however, was very excited and kept chattering away to me all morning. Between the lines, she was clearly looking forward to the trip. I smiled without a word, watching them drive to the airport and disappear from my sight after finishing breakfast. I decisively picked up my luggage and rushed straight to the airport. The notifications about Zaingu on my phone kept buzzing non-stop. As expected, I dialed the number that could reach him and tossed the phone at the airport. Then, without looking back, he boarded the flight to Germany. On the other side, after picking up Vivicio, Zaingu noticed an exclamation mark had been added to the message sent to me. In the back seat, the daughter suddenly hugged Vivicio tightly. "Great. I can finally play with my beloved mom." Then she turned her gaze to Zaingu. "Daddy, how much longer until I can get rid of my current mom?" Zangu gripped the steering wheel tightly, his face darkening, yet the words no simply wouldn't come out. Vivicio looked at him with some confusion. What's wrong, brother Zane? Zangu pushed the images in his mind aside and forced a smile back onto his face. Nothing, let's get going first. As for me, I had already contacted my parents who live in Germany before getting off the train, now in their 50s. My mother, who suffers from joint pain and walks with a cane, quickened her pace the moment she saw me. My daughter, my dear daughter, you've finally decided to come back to Germany to see your parents. Her tone carried reproach, yet her eyes were brimming with tears. Father snorted coldly. You still remember to come back? Weren't you supposed to settle down in Germany? Holding one hand of each, I calmly told them, I'm already divorced. What? Mother was too shocked to speak. Father, however, remained calm and sighed. As expected, you two were bound to reach this point. Suddenly, I remembered that only my mother had blessed this marriage of mine. In my father's eyes, this marriage of mine wouldn't last. I argued with him, insisting on moving back to China to settle down. He was so angry that he threw a vase at me. Damn it, won't you even listen to your father? I'm a man too. I can tell at a glance whether he's good enough for you, yet you insist on being with him. I dodged sideways to avoid the vase hurled at me, and in doing so, also missed the moment to truly hear my father's teachings, stubbornly insisting on going home with Zangu. Now, it turns out he was right about everything. I obediently lowered my head, listened once more to my father's lecture, and then said earnestly, I've made up my mind. I won't get married. I want to make a name for myself on my own. My mother immediately cast an approving glance at me. That's the spirit. But before that, I traveled around Germany with my parents to relax and unwind. The weather is clear today, and I'm sitting in the square, lost in thought. But then, an incredulous voice came from behind me. I thought there would be no more intersections between me and Zangu. I never expected Germany to fall short compared to China. I ran into Zangu in just 2 days. Coincidentally, he didn't seem to be here for work, and neither did I. I confidently greeted him in German. Hello. In an instant, Zangu froze in place. You actually know how. Before I could speak, my mother also greeted him. Damn it, I can do it too. I was completely amused by my mom, watching Zangu's face grow increasingly pale. I bet he must have remembered the fact that I grew up in Germany. What do you know? I calmly repeated the conversation I heard on my birthday. Zangu couldn't help but speak after listening. It was just a joke. I sneered and pulled up Vivicio's chat records to show him. And these, were they all jokes too? Zangu took my phone in one swift motion, and I watched as his face turned ashen. Then he staggered, nearly dropping my phone. He hung his head low and murmured softly, sorry. I just found it laughable. So, you still want me to forgive you? Zangu stepped forward, trying to take my hand and explain. Before he could get close, my dad rushed over and kicked him to the ground. Stay the hell away from my daughter, you punk. My dad, true to his years of fitness training, kicked Zangu so hard that he couldn't get up for quite a while. Zangu staggered as he tried to stand, tears streaming down his face amid violent coughs. Please just listen to my explanation. What happened with Vivicio was just an accident. I didn't want to hear it. I walked over and slapped him across the face. It seems you've forgotten that the people I despise the most are liars, yet, you all love nothing more than acting in front of me. I asked you several times, and you still wouldn't admit it, treating me like a fool, and now you still want me to listen to your explanation. Get lost. I immediately stood up and led my parents away. Just as I was about to get into the taxi, Zangu chased after me again. At least give me a chance to contact you. What about our daughter? Are you abandoning her too? He clung to the window, but my father forcibly pulled him away and coldly warned him, take one more step closer to my daughter, and I'll make sure you go back home crippled. I sat in my seat, quietly watching what was ahead. I said I'd give her a gift, making her wish to change mothers come true. How perfect, what you taught. You get to keep. I learned about my daughter's unusual thoughts through Vivicio before returning home. It turns out that Zangu had been saying behind my back that I needed to be pampered and shouldn't be given heavy tasks, or else I would become unhappy. He kept telling our daughter to spoil me more. Gradually, my daughter rarely showed her true feelings in front of me, even developing a dislike for me, forgetting all my efforts. No wonder the daughter I raised with my own hands has come to resent me so much. At this thought, my heart grew colder, and I said to the driver, drive quickly. Zangu, seeing that persuasion was hopeless, ran in an attempt to catch up. I saw him stumble behind and roll forward in a somersault. Later on, I could no longer see him. I knew that this time, there was really no chance for us to meet again. Zhang Gu found out about his divorce when he was back in the country. As soon as they returned to China, they received the package I had prepared at their doorstep. Upon seeing it, the daughter cheered with delight. Whoopee, I can really get a new mom now. Only Zhang Gu wore a gloomy expression, wanting to tear the document before him to shreds. Why was the divorce successful? And you, why did you go provoke Elle in front of her? Vivi Qiu, startled by the accusation, retorted with righteous indignation. I was just telling her the truth. What's the problem? Don't you want to divorce her anyway? Zhang Gu threw her luggage out without hesitation. Get out now. The daughter was completely stunned upon seeing this and grabbed Zhang Gu's hand, pleading for mercy on behalf of Vivi Qiu. Why are you driving Vivi Qiu's mom away? Isn't this exactly what we wanted? But now, Zhang Gu regretted it. He regretted promising his daughter such a wish on her birthday, even letting me hear it. He looked at his daughter coldly and said, then you can leave with her. His daughter was completely stunned. Why, Dad? Even Vivi Qiu stood there with reddened eyes. It was you who came to me first, saying you were already tired of your family and wanted to marry me. Shut up. Zhang Gu refused to listen further, closing his eyes. I regret it. The only one I love is Elle. As for you, get lost. Vivi Qiu could no longer hold back her tears. Her daughter frantically tried to comfort her, but seeing no room for reconciliation, Vivi Qiu pushed her away. Get out of here. The daughter was pushed so hard that she fell directly to the ground. Vivi Qiu's mom, don't call me mom. If it weren't for pleasing your dad and marrying him, do you think I'd bother entertaining you? Vivi Qiu shouted loudly, grabbing her luggage and storming off. Her daughter's eyes welled up completely as she got up and asked pitifully, then what about my mom? Don't I have a mom anymore? Zhang Gu stood in place, hesitating to open it, because he had lost his wife. Later, he became completely dispirited, and his company's shares plummeted until it went bankrupt. Without my care, my daughter couldn't eat well or sleep properly. Gu Zimo, in his frustration and daze, nearly strangled his daughter to death. By the time he realized what he was doing, his daughter was nearly unconscious in his hands. Now, without a career and buried in debt, he could only kneel by his daughter's bedside, silently weeping. I'm sorry, if only your mother were here. On the other side, I suddenly let out a big yawn, and upon hearing it, my mom found me a shawl to drape over my shoulders. I clutched the shawl tightly and asked with a grin, Mom, what's for dinner tonight? Mom tapped my forehead playfully with a smile. Look at you. All you do when you come home is eat. Where's that career ambition you promised? I smiled and held on to my mom's arm. Oh, no rush, no rush.